No matter how far ahead you plan the show, when it comes time to actually go live, it sneaks up on you. I got it that time, right when it was starting. Let's see, 6/12, 2026 will need a satanic blood sacrifice. It will be built on the lie that Christ Jesus is not God. Aliens and immigration, sedition. We'll look at those three topics. They're covered in an Alien and Sedition Act of 1913. That just throw out a number. My dad, was a proud union electrician, the only union that makes them pass an algebra test. They always considered themselves, and he was always mad at Commonwealth Edison in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s. The constant for my dad, who didn't know he was pit labor against management. He was kind of a socialist, but all about America Marine. He didn't know that his bosses in the union and the managers of his pension were raiding the pension fund and living like satanic hogs. Many people think they are not consistent. You know how to be more consistent? Be more consistent. Here's a question. Have you been redeemed with money? We're going to cover that. We got a couple of Bible verses, and then we're going to get to and ending with the Bible verses. Look, that was the last page. Another notebook of introductions. 10 years started as Flat Earth Nation, Golden Age past. And all the shenanigans going on today is because they deny the Bible and the flat earth. They focus the globe. Let me get this cough out of the way. So the bloody sacrifice, the disclosure thing, that's the movie coming out. And it's going to, 6/12, June 12th, I'm thinking it will be a major OJ Simpson. Like, that was a 6/12. But if you look up on the Wikipedia page and see the terrible things that have happened on 6/12, they don't mention OJ because that was such a satanic insanity. Hey, I got to show the thing before we can really get rolling here. There it ain't. Nope, there it is. Oops, there it is. And I like to slide right into the other things that I was doing. Here's this. Did I look at this? Did I show you this? The National Bank of France. This is from Why Is There Always Women God in the Greek in the Renaissance, Minerva, Columbia, that they named them Columbia. How many? Every state has a Columbia, and there's a country of Columbia, or the United States would have been the United States of Columbia. Look at his Phrygian caps, French, Jacobian, crypto Jews is what this guy was saying. Is there's so much here? Private plunder for the directors. Well, they have that neatly organized. Diplomatic prerequisites. They look like the same bribes. They're stole it all, probably from this guy. These guys are going like, "Hey, wait a minute, that was mine." And the oldest map, they say, 1833, when Chicago was founded, but This is a reproduction of somebody who drew it in 1933. I'll guarantee it didn't look anything like this rustic picture. I got a lot of Chicago pulled up today. Look at that. The old Fort Dearborn, second. This must be the third. First drawbridge. Where's that swamp? Dense forest. Where's the dense swamp? You'll see there was a dense swamp. From 1858. From in 1833, you saw the picture that they say, and this is from one of those I Love Chicago baseball. They had a Chicago view of where they were building Wrigley Field. So they have, that land in 1958, and they tore these things down to build the Wrigley Field. And one of them was a temple. The name of the Chicago Cubs was first the White Stockings, then they were the then the Cubs, then they were the Orphans. How about that? The Chicago Orphans. That should take on a whole new meaning now. There it is. That's that Clark Street. There should be Madison, isn't it? Clark and Madison. And they say this is a picture of it being built. They're tearing it. It says Wrigley Field under construction, but this is the tearing down of the buildings to build it. This is a hollow building back here. It's all hollowed out because they were cleaning up everything, man. It's a rewrite. Where's all the cow poop in the roads? Is this a composite? There's Clark's Theater. One of the million clocks that were made by that company for every town, every situation. Another view of looking the other way down Chicago. Hey, I asked a question of the computer. Name the big sports that Freemasons are involved with. Soccer, American football, baseball, and basketball. Probably others. American and rugby football were separated in 1863. They might have been busy in the Civil War, but there's never enough time to take care of the rituals in Freemasonry when you've got to plan the sports that 14-year-olds will be addicted to gambling. And there's the scariest thing. That's, I think, my first AI thumbnail. I copied it off one of those computer things when it was just blabbering on. But that, you can't be there. You can't be fixed by more activity. You have to be called, chosen, ready to go. And the Art Deco for the last thing. Look at, this is not that good of work. They did build something and tried their hand at Art Deco. They can build things in 1933, but from a distance, I think it looks better than they are making it. Just throw up anything. Okay. So I don't think the Chrysler building is all it's cracked up to be. I really wonder and hope now, the first time I decided to see if I was sharing, nobody said you're not sharing. We're ready to move on.
And the ornamentation, and even the depths and the shades of black. This is just simply non-existent in this building in the center. Also, we literally have the same trees portrayed in this picture as the left picture in the initial 3. So check out the branches of this tree and reference back and forth. This is the same tree. Strangely, it is in a different position. So let's do some basic perspective work here. The tree in the first image on the left is placed on the path before the bridge, and clearly before this large building shown on the right. Now in this new image, the same tree, with leaves on it now, is portrayed in line with that building. Not only is it on the other side of the river, it is literally beside the building on the right. This is
Who else thinks it's weird that the tree is in the middle of the path?
blatant. I would postulate that we are dealing with editing on the scale of having assets that could be cut out, drawn in, repositioned, layered, and then create a believable composite image. This is incredibly impressive, maddening, and somewhat
What
the
happened?
other side of the river. It is literally beside the building on the right. This is blatant.
I didn't do that.
I would postulate that we are dealing with editing on the scale of having assets that could be cut out, drawn in, repositioned, layered, and then create a believable composite image. This is incredibly impressive, maddening, and somewhat terrifying all at the same time. How can we trust this kind of deception as historical documentation? Overall, it is a curious set of images with many blatant inconsistencies. However, our next image shows why we need to be discerning with this information. Now, a quick side on the segment we just viewed. I do want to be fair and objective and present as much data as possible. And if that means getting humbled and proved incorrect, then so be it. Now, here's a photo further in this book of Campbell's illustrated history, and it clearly shows the building in which I stated was illustrated. And this is precisely why this type of work is so difficult, because some instances appear to be edited, when in actuality, they may not be. And I'm sure there are instances that are the exact opposite. Now, I still feel like this doesn't do any justice to the tree situation that was discussed. And maybe it is a perspective issue, maybe it has been edited. I do want to be fair with myself and you as the viewer and not dictate your decision, but try to present this fairly. Will there be bias? Absolutely. There's still plenty of evidence that these historical documents have been tampered with. So from here, we are going to look at 2 more examples and then wrap this presentation up.
I'm going to look at a little bit more.
These examples are from a book called Art and Handicraft in the Women's Building of the World's Columbian Exposition. By taking a brief look at the preface of this particular book, we have the indication that the images throughout are illustrations. Take note of the company Rand, McNally, and Co., because we will look further into them in future presentations. So let's take a look at the statue of Columbus located at the administration building within.
I'm going to be trying to make the argument that these are made by the same wax toy soldier company, the Marx, like Karl Marx, the Marx brothers, those Marxes came over and discovered how to make these things. And I think it's just a blown up picture of that same little base that the toy soldiers, and I'll show you pictures where they had whole, soldiers for every era, every war.
The fair. Starting off, this image is classified as an engraving. And even if that were the case, it is clearly evident that many parts of this image have been painted over or completely illustrated. Not to mention the reflections on the windows appear incredibly realistic and would argue this is a photographic element. So let's begin our inspection. As we zoom in here, we can see there are highlight strokes on the statue. There's some on the flag. They're on the sword. They're on Columbus himself. There's strokes on his armor and detail.
Christopher Columbus got thrown in prison because bringing back 500 slaves wasn't enough. He brought back 500 slaves. After a second and third trip, they were like, we expected more. You're going to jail. But we have a holiday for it because it's part of the rewrite.
On the robe and the fabric of the flag. Even the writing on the statue.
What's that say? Anybody? Everything is fake. Question everything. It's a flat Earth nation. The golden age is past. Mud flood was Armageddon. That's what it looks like.
Appears edited. Now,
Yeah, it
looking at the
does.
men in this photo, they all seem to have some sort of graphic element added, whether it's small white highlights, gray shading, or in the instance of this man on the right, completely illustrated. This amount of editing brings forth an obvious question. Did this man exist at all? Did any of these men actually? I would like to draw your attention to the bottom of this image and work your way around the Great Basin here. There are clearly many illustrated elements. Take a look. The people are illustrated, and not just one or two.
How many of these, we saw some real pictures, but were they real pictures of, Godzilla? They do a lot of good work with miniatures. That's how they do the fake in space. Go.
Of various digital copies of now thousands of books and browsing some of the world's most curious illustrations, engravings, woodcuts, paintings, and photographs has provided a unique perspective into the histories of our past through visual mediums. In some cases, creating.
This guy's been at it for a while. This is interesting.
Kilometers on either side of the Grand River for the entire length belong to the Six Nations.
Wait, what? What'd he say?
So this little road here is called Feeder Lane. And it's actually the old towpath from 150 years ago.
It means they had to pay to use it.
That's where they used to pull the barges on this road here, on this little path. It's all concrete.
Roman concrete. That's a nice
So
picture.
at the same time the feeder canal was being built, William Hamilton Merritt again and another politician businessman named David Thompson came up with an idea to build a series of locks and dams on the Grand River to get people and goods from Lake
I'm thinking they're Freemasons, Rosicrucians, Satanists.
Erie up to Brantford. So they formed the Grand River Navigation Company in 1832.
Oh, I'll bet they did.
And began making plans. One problem they had was that all of these locks were on Indian territory, specifically Six Nations of the Grand River. This land was given to them under the Haldimand Proclamation of 1784 by the Crown for their loyalty to the British during the American Revolution. 10 kilometers on either side of the Grand River for the entire length belonged to the Six Nations.
It's pretty good, huh? Look at that drone shot. There's the feeder canal to Welland. This is Chicago or one of the cities. Is this D.C.? I got D.C. and Chicago on my mind today, waiting for a blood sacrifice on 6/12.
Thompson came up with an idea to build a series of locks and dams on the Grand River to get people and goods. Bridge and keep going.
They did a good job. It was 1836. A lot of diversions. There's Caledonia. It sounds like the Bible. Remains of lock number 5, parallel flume. Still see the scars when you know what to look for. You read the Bible and trust the Bible when you know what to look for. What does Jesus say?
Here they have a provision.
Hey, that looks like Roman concrete.
For a boat lock for the future.
Sure.
In case they want to continue with navigation.
There you go.
One day.
Look at it change the color in the water. Weird. Must have dried that section out. What in the world? Huh. Huh.
So this is where the water intake was. He dammed it up over here Had a big deep pool here and sucked the water in here. Let's go take a look.
I wonder if that's what Hoover Dam is going to look like. Wow. Southern Ontario. You know, here's another aqueduct. Oldest one in America, I think, or some crazy thing. You know, does everybody have to get tattooed now? Does everybody? Are you nobody on YouTube unless you. Should I get a fake tattoo for my neck?
To then handle 7 feet of water. A little short of the 15 they wanted, but at the same time, upriver, that's where they were pulling out the electrical generation. That's where they were pulling out some of the mills. So they didn't really need the whole 15 feet down here. So they had 7 feet, and you can actually see very clearly where that change took place.
Flooding damaged the canal, and the repairs weren't always up to the original standards, as you can see from this downriver wing wall. The original almost certainly would have been the same graceful curve as the upriver wing walls, and certainly would have shared the same quality workmanship. So these repairs,
It's a little bit better.
Obviously functional, as they've lasted for decades here, really lacked the graceful beauty of the original workmanship. Unfortunately, even use of the canal for water power didn't last. In 1902, industry, which had operated mills along the canal for decades,
Let's see what he's talking about here. Give me a map. Show me something.
called bateaus. They were well suited for the river in this area. They'd each carry about 5 to 8 tons of cargo, and they could be pulled along the river or rowed in the deeper areas. Being the pre-Civil War South, of course, this labor was done by enslaved people. The original aqueduct arch, 3-foot deep channel,
That's
towpath,
how refaced this part. This is the old aqueduct. See, when they say aqueduct, that means this is another river flowing over. This is a bridge carrying a river over a river in 1833.
and approaches were built for these bateaus, and even today, more than 2 centuries later, you can still see the amazing quality and durability of this stonework. The arch is 30 feet or 9 meters long, 35 feet or about 10 meters high, and it sits 22 feet or about 7 meters above the water surface. The canal within the aqueduct was 18 feet or about 5 meters wide.
They just took the canal right through there. Give me the aqueduct.
There was more here than that, though, since they also needed a towpath. So the overall width, including the massive stone walls and the towpath,
Do you have any
was
map?
29 feet or about 9 meters wide.
Well, maybe I looked it up on Wikipedia. I can't dwell too long on one thing. This is a silent film. Down the old Potomac in 1970. Look what I found in Cumberland, Maryland. Maryland. This is where they loved Mary. There are no original boat canals. You know, there's no canal boats that made it from the Erie Canal, the I&M. No canal boats survived. Guess how many Titanic lifeboats survived? Well, I think, you know, quite a few survived to hold the survivors, but they didn't save any of them. They have reproductions. Everything's weird, right? My thing keeps, you know, like trying to save quality. I got to do the setting thing again. So that's a reproduction. It still works pretty good. They have those long boats, probably modeled on that. Again, the old 180 miles. This is all faked, the way they're making it look older. This is probably a computer or something. Thomas Edison supposedly did that. It looks like the gates open automatically to the same level, and then they just 86 locks in 800 feet in 1833. You do the math. No, you do the math. But so it's opening and it's the same level, and you time it that much, you just go right in right as it's opening. Crank it more, crank it. There's that horse. He's the calmest horse. Here's a little more of the horse. Crank it. He's just steering. Look at that stonework in the background. 1917. Just brand new, but it looks like it's today. It looks like old. Looks like there's stuff growing in it. Hey, that horse just meandering. Where's that? Well, you better watch where you're going, dude. Harper's Ferry. John Brown's body lies a moldering in the ground. His truth is not my truth. No, don't crash. We're not going to dwell. No dwelling. Another one. Another one. Hi, John.
Good morning, John. We're down here on the C&O Canal. And this is part of our series of hikes. And we're at the Antietam Aqueduct, and we're walking upstream.
That's a Civil War thing.
Here we come up to the gates, and we're going to walk through.
I'm going to see if I got that. Oh, it doesn't get very good at all.
Start our walk.
I'm going to jump ahead.
Or even go online. Each picnic site has a grill, a picnic table.
Well, there's the campground.
So we're just going to do a sweep of the river. And on we go.
Huh.
As we look across the canal bed,
how old is this one?
We can see there's fields over there. It's not the high cliffs we had earlier. Now there is a ridge behind them, but that's fine. We're continuing on our way. We've come up to culvert 103.
103.
It's a very beautiful scene.
It's relaxing.
Here from the top of the culvert, we'll give you a view of the river.
Culvert. So aqueduct, that means this is one of those ones where it carried boats over another river.
And we're looking out on the river as we walk.
Exploring John.
The pots.
Look at that.
We've made our way up to the aqueduct.
There you go.
If we look left here, we see where
so
the
that's where
through it. Of course, at the time, that would have been all water.
All water.
Go look out and see how deep the water is.
Because it's going over another creek.
So now we're coming across.
There was no challenge that they could not do it. Tomorrow there's going to be a bloody sacrifice.
95. His family moved to Rome, New York when he was 3.
Sure they did.
He worked his father's farm for 7 years after the schoolhouse let him go.
Look at that teenage scholar.
Then in 1817, when the first shovels...
Whoa, 1817. Remember 1833, it was still in Chicago, people going, all right, what are we going to do here? Well, we need to get it going. By 1858, it's supposed to be huge.
Broke ground on the original Erie Canal.
Huge.
Jervis hired on as an axeman. He cleared brush for about 50 cents a day.
Good money.
By 1825, he was chief engineer of the entire central section. By 1839, the state asked him to design the largest stone aqueduct on the enlarged Erie Canal, the one at Schoharie Creek.
Schoharie.
If you care about the men who built this country with their hands, the workers nobody ever wrote a book about.
We think your computer should
a farm boy who became an engineer.
Huh, wow. And it's so easy but here's Schoharie.
Here is what they built.
Look at did you see the towers? There's good job, you guys.
Job to Jervis and the construction contract to Otis Eddy.
Otis.
Here is what they built. 14 stone arches, each.
This is aqueduct to carry water over it because they needed the canal to stay level and it had to cross the. Is it the Schoharie River? Schoharie Aqueduct.
24 feet
11
wide.
stone arches.
A length, abutment to abutment, of 624 feet and 3 inches. 2 abutments at either end. 13 piers on the downstream side. Cut stone, set on bedrock, mortared with Canvas White's hydraulic cement. Leaded at the joint. The country has just done something the country before it could not do. It has carried a navigable river through the air over another river.
A river over a river. They make it sound easy. Hey, look, there's $325.
The wage range that survives in the Erie Canal papers runs from $1.25 per day for menial labor up to $3.25 per day for skilled bridge carpentry. Between 1841...
They had to get to 33 and the 322, but that could by overactive imagination.
And 1869. A first-rate stonemason on the Schoharie Aqueduct.
Computers.
The Schoharie arches are still standing in the creek in 2026. Common lime mortar, the kind they used on the first Genesee Aqueduct, gives up the ghost in about 10 years of constant water exposure.
Plan Genesee. So here's that map. There it is in color. From, it says it's the oldest map. Uncolored map. Is that how what did I look for here?
So getting her home was really exciting for us. So she's doing great now, and everyone's doing great, and I'm excited to have a daughter. What I do for a living is actually I'm an IT professional, so I work both as a manager of IT systems, but I also work just on the systems themselves. It's kind of goes hand in hand with my love. So I decided I needed to find some answers. I needed to figure out, as this map was coming in, and I finally had it in front of me, that there had to be something more to it because it was really huge. It was, I think it's 20. I want to say it's 24 by 22, but I don't know. I mean, I have to actually go back and take a look. But it was a really big map, and I really wanted to see, what it was all about. And so I went Googling online, like I guess any IT person would do, and I happened upon this article by Jessica Hesser. And she wrote for Atlas Obscura. Probably a lot of you know that website. And it's just about what I thought was a colored version of my map. That my map, while unique, was uncolored, but that all these other versions were colored. And, that this is what it looked like when someone had hand colored it. And at first I kind of felt cheaped out. Like, wow, mine was uncolored. It would have been great to have someone actually colored it. So I went through this article and I thought, wow, this is really cool. And I wonder, what this all meant. And I actually reached out to her because in the age of technology that we're all connected, it was easy to actually find her email address and actually email her. And I said, hey, Jessica, I'm some random fan and reader. I just read your article and I think I found a map that was uncolored. And I'd really love any information you had on where you found any of your information. Because again, I still didn't know about the Chicago Map Society. I still didn't know about map dealing, and I still didn't know about resources online, even though now that I'm doing it more, there's a lot of those resources there. But as a new map, collector, I was on this one thread and I was determined to take this one track as far as it could go because, I didn't know where else to go or what else to do. So she responded almost immediately and said, Dan, I did this article, I actually got a lot of information from an actual map dealer, and here's his email address. Why don't you go ahead and give him an email, and maybe he might be able to help you, which was totally fine because she was, it was using it as a secondhand source. So I actually emailed him. I right away, I'd say probably a day later, I emailed an antique map dealer, and I asked him, hey, looking back on it, I realized how busy people are, and but it really did deflate me as a new map person. As a new map collector, I didn't know what I had, and I felt alone in a really. And when I took a look, I could actually see that Wolf being spelled with an E was actually there in black, whereas in the colored version, it was just completely missing. It wasn't like someone had, erased it or painted over it or something. And, I don't know the differences in how maps are made. But it was something that really struck me and made me very excited. And I found that different guy back right away, and I said, they're more common and people are more interested in Chicago maps than I thought. All right, well, there's a book about it, right? I mean, if there's a book about it, there must be more people interested in it. and my digital copy next to each other, differences started to line up pretty quick. I actually started noticing things that I didn't notice before. The first thing was a story.
I had 4 children, and my wife was only like 5 or 6 years younger than me, but by the time when we were in our 50s, didn't matter. Uh, they all hated anything black and white. If it wasn't colored, they wouldn't even look at it. A black and white movie, forget it.
In the uncolored map of Chicago, there are 2 storks just kind of hanging off there by the south branch of the Chicago River. And in the colored map, there's an egret. I've done some research. It looks like an egret. I don't know why Chicago would have an egret in it, but that is what it is. And the old wild onion, Chicago, I don't know if I'm saying it right. The wild onion, the wild garlic plant, not looking. I've heard that can be a touchy point for people. I always was told it was called smelly onion growing up. So, it's interesting that on the uncolored map, there's no reference to it, and all you see is grassland over there. But in the colored map, that Caroline McIlvaine actually helped.
You see how they're never finished polishing their narrative.
Design and help be a historical advisor for. She put that into the map, and I didn't understand why. It didn't make significant. It wasn't significant to me for a while until I started researching.
She's trying to get the legend built up. Show me another one.
In August of
town of
1833 was
Chicago.
350. Now, if we look back in some of the historical references, we actually think that means population 350 of 350 white men. They didn't count women, children, or men of color, being the time that it was. So we
they have to admit to something.
Colored version of the map. And in the black and white, it's missing. And again, it's kind of weird, and it just kind of stuck out at me at first. I was kind of like, wow, that's missing. I wonder why they put that in there. And then we get to the bottom right-hand corner where we can see that the copyright has been very much changed because, the compiled from the original map of Chicago about 1833, and in the uncolored my map, it just has the copyright mark or the designer's mark with Walter Connolly and O.E. Seltzer. And I thought that really meant something. That there had to be a bunch of differences here. And what started as just a quick glance around my map, I bought a map loop, and I really started looking for all the differences. I don't know why I needed a map loop to look for differences in a map. It's pretty easy to see with your eyeball. But I knew that I just needed to look at it with something, mappy and techy. And so I started looking at all the differences from the 2 different maps. So how many differences are there, right? How many differences could there be from this colored map to this uncolored map, from the uncolored map to the colored map? And we can see there are about 20 different items. It looks like the Caroline is not referenced in the black and white map at all as a designer or as a contributor, but in the colored map she is. And so what I can deduce, which is to say a non-expert person that's only devoted his time to one single map, is that she made these changes. She made these 20 specific changes. And I'll let you kind of look to see what they are here again.
Here's another one. Another aqueduct. Oh, wait, that's the same one. So here's Chicago, where they built the Wrigley Field. The orphans. It was called Wolf Point. I don't know. Maybe somebody else could make a bigger deal. I got nothing on Wolf. John Miller was friends with John Sutter, the famous discoverer of gold. It was built on something, a Methodist Episcopal church called the Temple. Again, here's you can do this and then you get a bigger picture of it. Oh, it's not, they don't offer a big one. Sometimes they're big. That's bigger. That's not true. It can't be true. It's all a rewrite of history. And then they decided they got cholera, so they dug a freshwater intake 2 miles out with their horse and buggies all underground. So it's all a ridiculousness. It's a cover story. The plot of Chicago, and then they did it. There's the skyline. That's City Hall. in 1870. Not much bigger, but you get the idea. It's fake. This house still exists. After the Great Fire, that means this is after the Great Fire. Some of these were really big, but some of them aren't. We're moving on. Let's see what we got here. So this is the church, the first skyscraper now. But it was founded in 1831, built a log cabin, but it moved into stone pretty darn early, by 1833, I think. Look at that temple building now. Sure. I don't know. They're still from 1833, same church. Wesleyan Methodist. You know, they started as a tongue-talking crazy thing. The Walgreen family. Money come, money go, right? One of the big organs, huh? The Opus 422. They don't have, not you personally, talking about to the Wikipedia. They don't have an image of it? It's the Chicago Temple. They got one. Oh, and see, it's bigger than the one they showed. Oh, it is the one. Power those pipes. That's interesting. 5,589 pipes. That's the Opus 414. 2 full stories in height. Huh. They bought that in the late 1800s, and today's modern technology fixes it with duct tape. I'm sure they'd be proud. Oh, wow. It's a delicate operation. When you try to electrify it, something might go wrong. Look at the Roanoke. The Roanoke River. It had an aqueduct on it. It was one of those ones that had an aqueduct. Early settled Carolina and Virginia, Roman Catholic, Phrygian cap wearing supporters of Rome. And when you supported Rome back then, you basically, you're basically saying, I'm cool with punishing people that don't believe in the Trinity. First, I think you should cut their skin off and then burn them alive. And today we act like that's normal. Well, they don't do that anymore. They did it. They did it. Welcome, Zach, Matt, Clava, Marcella. Good to see you all. So that's these guys. That's what these colonies, they did it. It's those guys. Now, it's in the Blue Ridge Mountains in the middle of nowhere, 20 miles long. That's 32 kilometers with an aqueduct. You know, another one of the people that came over here at the beginning of the short season, Satan's time, and they were finding you could believe in anything except a monotheistic spirit God that incarnated in the flesh as Jesus Christ. Don't believe that, or they would flay you and then they'd burn you on your heretical books. They don't mention the aqueduct. Isn't that funny? Got a little paddle trail now. Good thing I showed the video of it. It's actually a real thing. The Dismal Swamp. That's a real thing too in Virginia. There it is. Where they fixed it. Don't worry. It was a dismal swamp, but in the 1800s they fixed it, and it still works because it's not a dismal swamp anymore. They needed this canal. How old is that? How old is the Dismal Swamp? Oh. Well, 1763. He said, this is too swampy. George Washington said, make it unswampy and make it for rich people. Okay, you got it, George. We're going to have to take it from the 6 tribes of the Cherokee. Just get it done because I want it undismalized. Stop with the dismalization. The seventh angel poured out his bowl and said, it is done. Every island fled away. No mountains were found. Great hailstones. You know, we're about to have another big judgment on us. Your enemies are your footstool. Devours their enemies. Enemies alienated, hostile in your mind. Enemies of the cross. He hated to say it, but they are. Some of the people turned and went back to not worshiping God. Enemies, all his enemies under the footstool. That's the main thing. Matthew chapter 5. Love your enemies. You might be surprised. You might be surprised because you guys know agape. Only used 25 times as the highest form of love. I think our enemies deserve the truth. The truth is Jesus Christ. There's only one way to show love, and that's to show a life of willing sacrifice to the world. That this is not our home at all. Love conquers all. You have not because you ask not. I don't know. I'm just saying, you know. Could they have faked some of these images back in the day and taken a picture and put it up and photoshopped it? This guy's a Marx company. They had some different, they had all kinds of different styles. You name it, they got it. Look at that one. What do you got? There you go. I'm not the one who brought up the photoshopping. That other guy did. So here it is. Louis Marx, Ferdinand Strauss. Yeah, probably from the Levi Strauss clan. Disney branded dollhouse, Rock'em Socket, robots, anything plastic from 1919 to 1980, they did it. They taught the people how to live before they could do it with Legos. Well, there you go. It makes me, I don't know, I go like rolling, keep those plastic things rolling. So these things sold 1 million in 2 years. It's a lot. Mark's company made these too. That's the coon jigger. You gotta wind it, you gotta keep winding it. What a racist country we had. I don't care if you don't like that. Eastern State Penitentiary. I had to find out more about it. Look at, and the guy, Bug, it's a common nickname, but he's the biggest bug I've ever seen.
In a shorter period of time, but there's a lot of inner workings going on here that we don't want to miss. I mean, this is 4 blocks by 4 blocks. We got to check in up front.
Where's Bug? Look at that castle. This is the oldest, America's first penitentiary. The first penitentiary. I looked it up to confirm it. You can see I highlighted it.
First glance, it looms like a fortress. High stone walls and a gatehouse intended to keep dwellers in. Built in 1829 on what was then the outskirts of Philadelphia, it was once the most expensive and ambitious prison in the world. But what began as a bold...
You mean in early 1800s? Look at that. That is a high wall.
Experiment in human reform would soon become a cautionary tale.
We are officially inside the walls of the Eastern State Penitentiary, and there's so much history here that we enlisted some help. And this is Bug, and you are a state penitentiary expert.
I'm a senior educator at Eastern State, so I do a lot of research, develop some programming here, but my day-to-day is leading tours and educating guests who come and visit the site.
It's hard to summarize, but can you explain a little bit, where are we right now?
We are on the site of, at once, the biggest building in the country, but most significantly,
the biggest building in the country.
First penitentiary in the United States. A penitentiary itself is a prison that focuses on rehabilitation. So when Eastern State first opens up,
they had a thing called solitary confinement. They put them in tiny rooms.
In 1829, what does it look like then compared to what it looks like in 1971 when we close?
Look at these doors. And each one is a cell?
Each individual cell here would have originally had one person. Eastern State as a penitentiary functions on the system called the Pennsylvania system.
Which is solitary confinement,
Exactly.
Correct?
Yes.
Designed by architect John Haviland, Eastern State stemmed from the radical idea known as the Pennsylvania system. This system preached that silence, isolation, and solitude lead to reform. What I hear is that it was intended to be built for one person per cell block, but that changed.
Oh yes, it did.
Quickly, right?
Well, we don't exactly know how quickly it changed. There's a lot of overcapacity around the 1850s and 1860s with the Civil War. By the 1890s, we do know through private records, they already are kind of removing solitude.
They just buzzed through 75 years of they don't know jack diddly squat. Look at behind the bricks. Barber chair?
Solitary confinement. And 1913 is when they eventually officially switch.
And I see it behind you. Is this an open?
This is, yeah. Now, what's really notable is this cell does not look anything like what it looked like in the 1820s or even in the 1970s.
Oh.
It's in pretty significant ruin, yeah.
It's hard to believe we're just getting started.
They didn't stop the solitary confinement till 1913.
Aesthetic.
Figure that.
Now, arch ceilings, tall ceilings like this also cool a building down. The rooms like this are small enough that it doesn't have a big impact. It's supposed to be the vibe, or at least the aesthetic, of a church. And if it seems simple and kind of plain, that's what
I don't think so. I don't know.
I think they probably wanted that for people to reflect and maybe think about what they did.
Yeah.
Because you don't do that more so than in a church.
Exactly.
Did receive criticism in its very early days for inhumane punishments, such as the iron gag and the shower bath, and confinement in underground cells. The underground cells were said to be down this staircase.
It's the hole.
It's the hole. Pretty creepy.
Yeah.
So they were used frequently, but I believe after 1953, they were officially shut down after the prison received a visit from the Bureau of Corrections.
Go Bug.
As his office first. So a lot of the really ornate fixtures is kind of typical of what his addition is. But around the 1930s, the 1950s, again, eventually it becomes the Catholic chaplain's office.
The Catholic chaplains and orphans, who knows? So a little bit about, there you go.
To go through. But there's also a sense of heaviness.
Yeah.
Is that kind of a sentiment that most people who visit this place walk away with?
Absolutely. This place is the source of many of the changes within our prison system that are causing huge problems today. The use of solitary confinement on the widespread, it's an issue we have nowadays in various forms, certainly. Unsanitary conditions, the financial problems, the recurrence of violence, recidivism rates, those are problems they're talking about 200 years ago here, but we talk about now as well.
Right.
But there's also the weight of the individual stories. There's a lot of lessons to be learned because of that.
Well, thank you so much for teaching those lessons with your time.
I missed the one thing I wanted you to see, where she stands in the center, and it looks like they, here it is. Go Bug.
Electronics.
Absolutely, right? And before security cameras and anything like that, the radial design that kind of epitomizes the use of a central rotunda like this is the core example of that at Eastern State. All right, so you can stand in the very center right over here. The idea of the central rotunda is that one person can see from the very center of the building down every single one of the original 7 cell blocks.
Right before you said that is when I became aware of that.
Yeah, and critically, you could do it in less than a minute.
So for your time and you're like, I gotta do a quick check.
Yeah.
You take a rotation and my mind is blown with I'm seeing different.
What do? Just tell everybody in your solitary confinement, stick your hand out the window, man. Easter, the first one they ever built, was the largest building in the world. So is baseball and the other things really Freemasonic? Here's the conspiracies that just might actually be true from 2025. They just won't go away. Baseball avoided integration by an unwritten rule. Well, it was still legal to be segregated like that. It wasn't until 1940 when they had to start working it into being, acceptable. 1950s, was there, professional basketball? They only found 3 black guys that could make the team. No other black guys could make the team. And one Hispanic looking dude. But they claimed, we're trying to integrate it. These other guys are really good basketball. Really good. Baseball owners colluded back then, and they went on strike, and they got the steroids to bring them back, and things have been happy. Sonny Liston, I think my dad even went to the second fight. I think he saw Muhammad Ali fight when he was still called Cassius Clay. Champion challenger. They never mention his name there, do they? Sonny Liston and Cassius Clay. Sonny Liston fights Cassius Clay, the Phantom Punch. We'll look at it. But I don't feel like opening up a new tab, so I'm going to do that. And it's a Phantom Punch. Was it Phantom or not? You can tell me. I want to see it on the larger screen. But okay. Is this a short? Everything's a short. Everything's got to be a short. Really. I'll let you see it, and I'll look for a bigger one. Computer. Unbelievable.
Many believe the occurrence to be a fluke. Their second fight should have put that notion to rest, as Ali knocked Liston out in the very first round of their rematch. The moment was captured in what became one of the most iconic sports. Put that notion to rest, as Ali knocked Liston out in the very first round of their rematch.
Where? I'm going to slow it down. I'm going to slow it down. Doobie-doo. Where's the settings? And they don't let you slow it down.
As Ali knocked Liston out in the very...
Okay, here comes the knockout punch. Is it the big left hand with a big right hook or a big right?
First.
It wasn't anything.
Round of their rematch. The moment was captured in what became one of the most iconic sports pictures ever taken. Ali standing over Liston, screaming at him to get up. Surely, Ali assumed that he had put any doubt about his legitimacy to rest. Instead, the knockout
Clay stops Liston. Cassius Clay
became one of the most controversial, highly debated sports moments ever. A great deal of fans, and even professionals in the boxing world, believed that Liston had taken a dive for the mafia. Some claimed that Ali had never thrown at all, giving rise to the conspiracy theory of the Phantom Punch. The controversy was so great that a segment aired on TV with boxing experts discussing the matter. The guests included former heavyweight champions Jack Dempsey and Rocky Marciano. But as slow-motion footage...
Jack Dempsey comes from a small town in very southern Colorado, near me, but he ended up being like, I need to join the Freemasons. Let's watch it again in the big... I didn't highlight it enough.
To be a fluke. Their second fight should have put that notion to rest, as Ali knocked Liston out in the very first round of their rematch. The moment was captured in what became one of the most iconic sports pictures ever taken.
The rumor my dad told me was that Sonny Liston had a blonde girlfriend. He wasn't legal then, and they're going to kill her if he didn't take a dive. You know, he hears things and he just says them.
Ali standing over Liston, screaming at him to get up. Surely, Ali assumed that he had put any doubt about his legitimacy to rest. Instead, the knockout became one of the most...
Where's that other one? Huh. I thought I wanted to show some more. So are there any more? Joe Namath and his legend, you know, that grew with him. Then he became a movie star and a drunk, and he's probably a made man. Isaiah Thomas, Michael Jordan left him off the team. Rumors persist that Michael Jordan's had gambling debts, his father was murdered, and that he may have had a secret suspension. None of that was ever proved, but he did come back and say, I'm back. I'm done making Space Jam, to where if you had the power of positive thinking, you can fly. I believe I can fly. Hockey owners keep salaries down. Gamblers fix. Everything's new. Pete Rose, is it all? These two guys, they're made men, so they got to stay in after they were found guilty. Are they too good to be true? Yeah. No. Oh, yeah, they got caught. Very unrepentant. Steroids. Fake, did he do? Da, fake, did he, yay. Stop it.
To grow even larger, with plans to build additional buildings. However, the community was already changing around them, making
Look at that. It was a theological, see? It said theological. That's a Lutheran school.
He established the Chicago Lutheran Theological Seminary on the site. It started out small, but by 1905, they hoped to grow even larger, with plans to build additional buildings. However, the community was already changing around them, making expansion rather unlikely. You see, the Chicago L Rapid Transit System expanded into the area in 1900, and the neighborhood began to urbanize rapidly. The seminary started looking to sell the land so they could relocate. At the same time, the American Association, a minor league baseball league, was looking for a location to set up a team. The American Association wanted to reach major league status, and the Chicago market was highly profitable.
There's no numbers on that jersey.
Charles Havener, Joe Cantillon, and Mike Cantillon all...
Wait a minute.
It was highly profitable. Charles Havener, Joe Cantillon...
It's like looking in a mirror.
And Mike Cantillon, all owners or managers of American Association teams, started searching the north side for viable land.
So the Chicago orphans displaced these guys. It's so cash.
Teams, one of which, the Chicago Whales, was based out of Chicago to capitalize on the city's larger market. The league's founder and
That looks
president was
mafia to
John
me.
Powers, but James Gilmore replaced him midway through the 1913 season. Gilmore was more ambitious than Powers and led the Federal League to compete directly with the National and American.
Too much. So it's basically a Freemason takeover. Goodbye. But don't worry, they landed on their feet.
As this was far too short when compared with league standards and had some interesting ramifications. For example, Weigman Field saw 9 home runs in 3 games as a result. And so it became obvious that Weigman had to expand the park. So the left field distance was increased by 25 feet and the left center distance was increased by 50.
You know, that doesn't look like an exploding scoreboard. I'm kidding. I know that's the White Sox.
And the scoreboard was moved to the left center field. The right field distance was shorter than the left, but the park could not expand in that direction.
Black Sox scandal, Wrigley Field first night game. Did they really have construction, of them tearing it down, building it?
Was moved with its corresponding grandstand section. The old wooden bleachers were dismantled and the new bleachers were added to the right and left fields. This left far more space in the right field, making the field now
fake giddy do da fake giddy yay. Who's this guy? Why doesn't he have more subscribers? Hey.
We know it as America's pastime, but do you realize the game was created to pass through time? The founders of white America were Freemasons, so it makes perfect sense that baseball was sculpted in the inspiration of what Masonry is supposed to be about. Ascension to the 33rd degree, which is enlightenment. This documentary will be going down the rabbit hole of what makes the game of baseball ritualistic in every sense of the word.
That's impossible. This guy. Look at the guy left. He goes, you know what? If these clowns are going to keep doing that, I'm out of here. Yeah, you're right. It's like they're filming a movie, right? And they just keep throwing that same scene out there. We're going to get it right eventually.
A theatrical showcase of the progression through challenge, enlightenment, then ascension out of the matrix. How the elements of the game mirror astrology, cosmology, geomancy, and of course, geometry. A mathematical play casting out the most secret knowledge in the world. Baseball is the occult manifested in the mainstream society in plain sight. But with our eyes to see, it's time to absorb some of its meaning. But first, let us gain understanding of the sport via a Freemason himself, explaining the roots of the game and how it has seeped into society.
When somebody is running the square of a baseball field, who can tell me how far they're running?
360 degrees.
Feet. 360 feet, 90 foot from base to base. Okay, what does that translate to in yards? 120 yards. Okay, so when somebody is running the square of a baseball field, they're running the length of a football field plus both end zones. That's a fact. Nobody's ever really equated the square to the distance of what it really is. You understand? So that's a great feat to be able to run a whole field at one time.
Baseball is more of a ritual than it is a sport. Players standing on geometric shapes and running in geometric patterns. The philosopher Morris Raphael Cohen described baseball as a national religion. Almost all ancient civilizations has had some sort of ritualistic sporting event that mixed athletic prowess and religious beliefs.
It makes you think that they're doing it on purpose right now.
All engaged one in the maintenance of the cosmic order of the universe and the ritual regeneration of life. It was a game of chance, skill, and trickery reflecting life. The team effort engaged individuals in shared behavior and culture, introducing, reinforcing, and reinventing the game of life and people's place in the
and it provided idols.
Cosmic order. Americans are no different than the Mayans, the Greeks, the Romans, and almost all other civilizations. The Freemasons dominate in the darkness in America and they are immensely inspired by ancient cultures like the Egyptians, Babylonians, and the Phoenicians. They study their rituals, their mythology.
Maybe they were influenced by the Kabbalah. That's what I'm leaning toward.
Celebrate the sacred symbols and secret knowledge of the past.
Baseball has a ritual all of its own. The preparation before a game, the taping of the wrists, the pine.
This is like the not George Carlin difference between football and baseball.
Are being applied to the bat, the warm-up exercises, the mental preparation necessary before taking the field so that a player may be prepared both mentally and physically for the great undertaking he is about to put his body and mind through, of being ready to perform in an instant's notice. The camaraderie and good fellowship in the dugout, the ebbs and flows of the game. The game to be played in its proper manner requires the possession of muscular strength, great agility, quickness of eye, readiness of hand, and many faculties of mind and body that mark the man of nerve. The countless intricacies of the game make it so enjoyable, but hard to perform. There are those who have countless esoteric and mythical theories about the game and Freemasonry. The internet is full of such conspiracy theorists. Are players standing on geometric shapes? Occult Kabbalistic rituals showing Freemasonic symbolism concerning both geometry and numerology, sacred numbers, is rampant on the internet. The game does have many inferences that can be drawn to Masonry. The field, from home plate to the left and right walls, form a compass. The entire outfield wall is the semicircle which this compass draws. Upside down, overlapping the compass, the three bases form the square. 3 strikes and 3 outs were assigned because 3 is a sacred number throughout history as well as in Freemasonry. 4 recalls the 4 directions common to so many sacred traditions as the square formed by the 4 bases as well as 4 balls for a walk. The 9 is represented as the multiple of the 3, represented by the 9 fielding positions. The bases, you have a guard at every door, and the 9 innings to the game. 81, the multiple of 9, is half of a season. Is this all coincidence, or is it part of a master plan? I don't go into the occult of baseball.
Masonry is filled with symbolism and ritualism.
So they say. I like those early examples.
By black and white squares, yin and yang. But in the case of baseball, by contrasting squares from colors of green. This duality shown in squares represents the physical duality of life. It might also have meaning where the ball lands or is intercepted on the field as to which square it comes upon, a darker green or lighter, but that is speculation. Babe represents one pillar of baseball, while Jackie Robinson represents the other. Branch Rickey, the major league executive that helped Jackie Robinson break the color barrier, was also a Freemason.
Brother Branch Rickey, from 1913 to 1955, 42 years in the game.
The Freemasons didn't create the game just to run around in funny-looking pants. They created the game to symbolically show you the ritual of conquering your challenge and succeeding.
Or to serve their god Satan. You got a couple choices there.
Lewiston, Maine.
Yeah.
The hidden punch.
Well, it was you could see the punch. They called it a phantom punch. You could see the punch, but it was like he called it an
anchor punch. Anchor. I call it the anchor punch. Yeah, man. And people couldn't see it. It was so fast. Sport Illustrated clocked they got a slow motion camera. They clocked the punch, and the punch flew at 4/100ths of a second. The minute I hit Sonny Liston, all of those people blinked at that moment. That's why they didn't see it. I swear. And if you watch the film close, you gotta hold your eyes and keep looking about that. And I said, all right, I'm getting ready to hit him. You can't just, you got to hold your eyes and wait. You won't see it, man.
That looks like a dive. You're saying it wasn't a dive?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. Oh, it was a dive. Sonny took the first opportunity he could to go down.
And a lot of people say it didn't land, but you could see his head react. It definitely landed. The question was whether or not he decided to stay down once he got hit, and I think he did.
In my mind, I believe in my heart that he was told to do it, but I have no proof.
Muhammad Ali was not a puncher. I remember when I talked to Eddie Futch, the great trainer, he was talking about their fight.
Yeah, whatever. There's the orphans. That's what they were called, the Chicago Orphans. That's how they dressed. Baseball was intended by the Freemasons, and a lot of gambling, betting on the next pitch. I wonder if it'll be involved in whatever the bloody sacrifice will be tomorrow. Ernie Banks, Hank Sauer, Ernie Broglio. The Wrigley years. They were always a popular team, even though they weren't winning. The Federal League. There they are. Fatima. No black players because it wasn't legal. The Billy Goat Tavern. That's where they put the curse on. I've been there. I saw Ernie Banks hit his second to last home run. Saw Andre Dawson hit some home runs. Sosa. I'm a White Sox fan, though. They ruined that guy. Kerry Wood. William Passabat. He's one of those guys, the Lutheran guy that sold the land. He didn't want to do it. But he also brought in the deaconess movement. And I know there's deaconesses. The Bible has deaconesses, and they worked with the elders. Fled Napoleonic wars, came here, took over the Native American lands, ended up, he was one of these guys like everybody back then, always going to farm a utopia. New Harmony, Pennsylvania. Harmony, Pennsylvania, New Harmony, Indiana. Still there. Received his license, ended up selling the land to the orphans' home. And that might have been one of the reasons they gave a fake reason of why they were called the orphans. I think we know why. Here's just what they show. You saw the video about the castle, the largest building at the time, the first penitentiary ever built in the United States. You can stand in the middle and see all 7 wings. Stick your hand out. Wave to me. I see you all. Okay. Back to your solitary confinement. No, not PEP, the inmate C2559. Are they what? This is their cell, solitary confinement. Nice new shoes. They were going to rehabilitate them. I'll bet they had a nice lamp in there. Huh. I can't get off of that it's the first one. Here's like the first jail. See, this jail here wasn't big enough, so they had to build the other penitentiary, the first penitentiary. The jail, J-A-O-L, jail, G, they spelled it with a G. Yeah, they spelled jail funny. Now everybody's funny. The Alien and Sedition Act. So apparently Donald Trump used it because it's one of those ones that it doesn't go out of style. There's no sunset clause. Anytime And they learned this in, at the same time the French Revolution were figuring it out. Thomas Jefferson, Fergie and cap wearing fiend. Well, that's old news, right? Alien and Sedition Acts, plural. You might want to look them up. The XYZ. Oh, you better check your pants. No, this XYZ. It was one of the United States hit the ground running in scandal. Scandal. Because you've never heard of the XYZ doesn't mean that, famous people aren't involved in these type of scandals to make money in quasi wars, undeclared quasi wars. You can still kick them out because the Alien and Seditions Act. Kick them out. Make them go bye-bye. You've heard of the Federalists. You've probably heard of secession, Democrats, Republicans. Wait, this is the early 1700s. They didn't exist then. John Marshall, I've heard of him. The Council of 500, well, that'd be nice. Oh, wait, does that mean like the House of Representatives? The internal coup, that's what happened in 1958? I ask you a question that was brought up in 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 18. Knowing that you were ransomed from the futile ways inherited from your forefathers, not with perishable things such as silver and gold. Well, we're going to wrap up the Bible study right there. But with the precious blood of Christ Jesus, a lamb without blemish or defect. He was known from before the foundation of the world. He created the world because God is a spirit. Those who worship him must worship him in spirit, in truth. The people that had their pineal gland avoided Armageddon. Go.
That's a lot of tombs up there.
Where are you? What are you even talking about?
Similar to
Lycian sarcophagi. Here's the other side of the king's tomb.
Rendered to Alexander the Great in 334. Looking out of a tomb, melted mountain. Mud flood was Armageddon. It is a flat earth nation. The golden age is past. Because the mud flood was Armageddon. I know me and my friends are never going to tell you anything else because we're one called, two chosen, striving to be faithful. Because I really have discerned that the only way to know you're saved is to die in faith. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Narcomain. Adios, amigos. From the border of southern Colorado and New Mexico, too darn close to that Zorro Ranch. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho.